Alright, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the comprehension open-ended section. Okay, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go through every single question to just highlight some of the things that you should have taken note of while you're attempting this passage. Alright, okay, let's look at the first paragraph. Every morning, Susan will be there at 6 a.m. and she'll be carrying the curry puffs, right? Okay, I'm just going to do a summary because you have probably read this passage already. Okay, each bag contains 3 curry puffs, and she'll feel the warm heat arising. It means that it is probably quite warm. However, she knew all too well that they will not stay warm for long. Okay, Susan had chosen a cool and breezy spot a distance from the MRT station, away from the security. Okay, however, it did not matter that much to Susan. There was still a steady stream of people passing by her spot. Okay, so based on this paragraph, why did Susan choose a spot a distance from the MRT station? Okay, we know that the answer is here in this line 5. She had chosen a cool and breezy spot, okay, from the MRT station, away from the security. So there are 2 things that I noticed in your answers. Many of you say that she's chosen because it's a cool and breezy spot, and versus it is away from the security. Which one do you think would be the more likely reason here in this case? Just reading this sentence alone. Susan had chosen a cool and breezy spot a distance from the MRT station, away from the security. Do you think her main idea is to stay cool, or is it to just get away from the security guards? Yes, that's right. The main reason is to get away from the security guard. Alright. Okay, let's move on to 72. Why did Susan occasionally turn her head to the side? Alright, let's move a little bit. Here in line 10. As she continued, okay, as she occasionally turned her head to the side to stifle a yawn as her hands were full. She occasionally turned her head to the side to stifle a yawn as her hands were full. So in fact, this is my answer for 72. Alright. Okay, 73. Why did Susan's mother prepare her curry puffs in darkness? Alright, here let's go further up a little bit. Okay, the living room was pitch dark with light from the corridor spilling in through the windows. I don't want to wake you 2 up, her mother claimed. What does the word claim tells you? So it probably tells you that what the mother said to her was probably true or not true. That's right, it is probably not true. Okay, and Susan knew it was not true. So this is your clue again. She has spotted her mother frowning at the electrical bill once too often. So electrical bill, what does this tells you about the mother not switching on the light? Why do you think she doesn't switch on the light? And why do you think she's frowning at the electrical bill? Yes, it is because she realized that she probably has finds some difficulty in paying for her bill, right? So the answer will be she prepared her curry puffs in darkness mainly because she wants to save electricity, or she wants to save on her electrical bill, so she doesn't want to spend that much. That is why she switched off her lights. Alright, 74. Which word in paragraph 2 has the same meaning as insufficient? Okay, looking at paragraph 2 again. Okay, usually you realize that the answers, they wouldn't ask you to backtrack too much or to look forward too much. Okay, it's basically around the same area. So from here, after the electrical bill, let's continue here. Times have been hard since her father left. Her mother held a part-time job. However, the meager pay was hardly enough to feed the family of 3. Some of you wrote the answer is hardly enough. Hardly, do you think it has the same meaning in insufficient. Can I swap the word in? For example, if I put the word insufficient here instead of hardly, would it sound alright? The meager pay was insufficient enough. I wouldn't say insufficient enough. Insufficient enough is not correct. Alright, so here the pay was hardly enough. So what was it to use to describe the pay? Is this word called meager pay? So if this adjective describes the pay and say that it's not enough, do you think this would be the word? Yes, that's right. So this is the word. This is an adjective. So I swap this in. Instead, I take the word insufficient. I put it here. The insufficient pay was hardly enough to feed the family of 3. Yes, it makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so this is something that you can do when we talk about comprehension. You swap the word in and you ask yourself, does this still make sense? Alright, 75. What made Susan's mother finally relent to allow Susan to help out in the mornings? Okay, so in the next paragraph, we had Susan trying to wake up at the same time. Her mother turned her back into the room, so her mother doesn't allow her to help. It was only after several times of pleading that her mother relented. Okay, so several times of pleading, so she kept asking her mother, please, please, can I? Alright, so she pleaded her mother and her mother relented. Okay, and does it end there? No. So this is my first point. The fact that Susan was coping well with her studies also reassured her. The fact that Susan was coping well. So it's not just because the mother pleaded, Susan pleaded, but rather also Susan was coping well with her studies. Okay, so these 2 points. First, Susan pleaded with her mother, and secondly, Susan was coping well with her studies. So these are the 2 points. Let's move on up. Alright, 75. Oh, 76, sorry. Okay, let me just turn and fold this page a little bit. Explain fully. Okay, always remember when you see the word fully, okay, it means that in other words, the answer is not going to be short. Okay, and some of you, when you write the sentence, you tend to write with a lot of commas. You try to shrink everything into one whole sentence. Sometimes we don't need to do so, especially for questions which ask us about the cause and effect. That is when we can actually split a long sentence into 2. Okay, you will not be penalized for that. Alright, explain fully why the oven was cheap yet costly. You need to mention these 2. Why was it cheap and why was it costly? Okay, the first thing, it was cheap because in line 22 they had bought from a rag and bone man. In other words, this is your Karanguni man. So they buy from Karanguni man. Do you think it'll be expensive? No. So it was cheap. So here it was cheap. You see, I look at the sentence behind. Okay, and then this is my answer. So the first reason why it was cheap, it was because it was bought from a rag and bone man. Okay, but ironically, which means that on the flip side, it is expensive. Why is it expensive? So I look forward. Okay, the bill says it all. When I say that the bill tells me, what kind of bill is this looking at? Some of you think that is this the bill that the Karanguni man gave? No, I don't think the Karanguni man will actually give a bill, okay, for the oven. This bill, yes, it is talking about the electrical bill. Okay, so first point, the oven was cheap because they bought it from a rag and bone man. Okay, however, yes, this is where you can start a new sentence. However, comma, okay, it was costly because it uses a lot of electricity, and that's why it causes the bill to be high. Okay, so it is expensive when they use it because it actually uses a lot of electricity. Okay, are you doing well? Alright, so far so good. 77. In line 26, what had caused that particular week to be bad for Susan? Okay, why was it bad for here in 25? Okay, we see that this is bad. Half an hour had passed and she had only sold 2 packets. So in one sense, it tells me that first, she had only sold 2 packets, so it tells me that her sales was very poor. So she was unable to sell many packets. Some of you said that for the whole week she only sold 2 packets. You have to be careful, that's not true. It's just for that half an hour in that particular day. But in other words, this sentence actually tells you that the sales she's not able to sell as many curry puffs. Okay, so that is the why, or that is one of the signs. Okay, but what is the main reason that caused her to not be able to sell as many curry puffs as she wants to? Okay, there, the next sentence, it says, the day before, it was reported in the news that a man had been hospitalized due to consuming food from illegal hawkers. This whole sentence here, it tells me that a man had been hospitalized due to consuming food from illegal hawkers. Think, if you are a customer and you actually walk past Susan, and just then, the day before, someone in the news, it says that, oh, someone actually died, or someone actually got food poisoning because they buy a curry puff. Would you still buy? No. So that is the cause. That is the main reason that caused you not to buy from her. Okay, so it was reported in the news that a man had been hospitalized due to consuming food from illegal hawkers. Okay, alright, 78. In line 42, okay, let's fast forward to the next page. Line 42. Okay, what does the word it? So in this case here, I have the word it. I look at the sentence in front and at the back. Okay, here onwards. Okay, once too often she will lose customers as a result of it. Okay, so it's from here. Susan unzipped her bag and pretended to look for small change, although she knew clearly she had none. Okay, so in this case, does Susan have any small change at all? No, she doesn't have it. And would that be a reason for her to lose the customers? Yes. Okay, so in this case, it is because she doesn't have small change. So it refers to Susan not having small change. Okay, in fact, we shouldn't even say that Susan did not have enough small change. Okay, but nonetheless, it is still quite close to the answer. Alright, so it refers to Susan not having enough small change. Okay, remember, Susan not having enough small change, this is a noun phrase. Okay, you swap it in. Once too often, she will lose customers as a result of her not having enough small change. Yes, you see what I'm doing is that I'm swapping my answer in to see whether it still makes sense, so that I do not lose marks. Okay. Alright, 79. Which sentence tells us that Susan felt somewhat guilty? Okay. So in the next paragraph, she could not believe her eyes. The crib's blue note was still in her hands. So does she feel guilty right now? No, not really yet. Maybe she's just wondering. Okay, she get it? Then her mind was still reeling from the incident. So it actually tells me that she's still thinking about the incident. Does it really tell us anything about how she feels? No, not yet. She chastened herself for being too hasty to leave the scene. Chastened is another word for scolding. So she scolded herself. So I really shouldn't have left, I really shouldn't have left. What if he came back? Do you think at this point she's feeling guilty? Yes, she is feeling guilty. Alright, she chastened herself for being too hasty to leave the scene. Alright. Okay, then 80. Okay, Based on a story, what do you think are the two things which Mrs. Lim had told Mr. Tan? So these are things probably saying that she probably needs help, her family background, that Susan is poor and Susan is rather hardworking, because in the passage it actually tells us that she did pretty well for her studies. So these are the things that you need to write in. And the question itself, it asks for two things. If you were to write a lot, right, you may lose marks because of this, because it's sort of like telling the teacher, okay, now I write out as many as I want and you pick and choose the correct one. Okay, so it wouldn't be fair to your other classmates who just wrote two. Alright, so that's about all the things that's been highlighted that I noticed from this passage, that are some things that you can learn from, looking at the sentence before and after, swapping in the answers. Okay, one last thing to add on is also the ending, rather your questions. Look at your tenses, check through. If it's asking for past tense, make sure that you answer in past tense. Alright, okay, that is all I have to share with you. Okay, have a great day.